Hello everyone! Welcome aboard the TQ Non-Profit Digital Voyage, a show where we talk about tech, social and public good, and how you can get involved. I'm your host, Imelia, and I hope everyone can sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. If you're ready, let's set sail! And now, on to our episode. Hello everyone, welcome to today's episode. I am joined today by two guests, one of which is one of the co-founders of TQ and one the assistant lead developer of TQ. So gentlemen, would you please introduce yourself to the listeners?
Technically, Fakhzan is not the assistant lead developer now, but
I'm sorry, I just got it from LinkedIn, so
yeah, he'll be there. He's actually the Fakhzan, what's your role again? It's very long.
Okay, let me Kevin sent me that. Hold on. Okay. Acting Assistant Director Tech for Good Innovation.
oh, great.
Yeah.
So I'm the director of operations, communications and tech, and he's the acting assistant director of Tech for Good Innovation.
Yeah.
Is this like a recent change, like since the last time? Because like you mentioned.
It's quite recent.
Yeah, it's quite
Ah, okay. Maybe update your LinkedIn, maybe. Just kidding.
Okay.
Shall we? Yeah, the script start again.
I don't know. This is more
It's
conversationally.
Yeah, just don't worry about
nice.
it. It's fine. So I guess we can start off like, what do you guys like? Can you talk us through what you guys do every day? I mean, like what's an average day in TQ for you guys? Maybe like one by one. You can start.
Okay, so because I'm involved in a lot of the communication side, so a lot of communications, talking to charities, talking to stakeholders within the charities. So I do a lot of interviews actually. So a lot of times it's me like getting in front of my computer, attending video calls, talking through, understanding and interviewing, kind of like doing I would say like kind of like doing counseling like that. So it's like getting the charities to share about their problems and then after that looking into how we can come to a solution together using digital means. So my role is more of an advisory role, so it's more of it's a consultant role. There's actually a majority of my work now actually. Then that's during the daytime. Then during my free time is when I start doing a bit more of the operation side. So I do need to do, like, for example, making sure that the reports, everything are done properly, I guess, making signatures and things like that. And I also still continue to help out with the software development side. So provide advice, or if there's a need to come in to help to do some coding, pair programming with some of our developers in the team now. So it's a bit of a mix of both for that. Yeah.
Alright. Fakhzan?
Okay, yeah. So my role would be, if you can think of it this way, it's like Emil's more towards both actually, the front and the back, like front facing to the clients, as well as, the second part that you said, the back part of the process. I would be mainly the second part, the like behind the scenes kind of guy. Yeah, like, so I help out with those kind of things. Right now mainly development, as well as helping out like the team members. Basically, I was due to like some recent changes, I'm more involved in taking care of like the product team, along with new role, which is the assistant to Emil. Mm-hmm. So a lot of it involves trying to solve problems that are faced by the team, at least the product team, and making sure that things are going smoothly and checking in on them if they have any problems. And it's mainly those things.
So would you consider yourself to be more client-facing or like more, like you mentioned, behind the scenes?
Behind the scenes, but the interaction with clients would be when I join in meetings. But even then, like mainly Emil would do like the talking, and then after that is the the development part. Yeah, I'll help out with those sections.
Okay. So I guess like for Emil it's a bit more of the opposite end. Would you say that, like, because you said you do both, right? But like, would you say like you're more towards like getting client facing, or are you more towards like doing your own stuff behind the scenes there with the development and all that?
Right now my role is a lot more client facing. So even within the product teams, I do a lot of requirements gathering, a lot of because actually my background is actually in psychology, right? So I actually do, for example, in my study and how I did things beforehand, I actually had a lot of exposure to how the social service sector deals with cases where your clients have certain problems, whether it's adolescents at youth at risk, whether it's a general family issues, things. So I can kind of like speak the same language as some of the social workers as well, and understand some of the concerns they have with regard to casework and in regard to stuff. So this is one of the things I do, right? And at the same time, because I have technical background, I can kind of translate that into how technology can solve some of these problems, or can help to make it easier to do some of the tracking and some of the service delivery benefits that they're looking at as well.
Okay. Actually, yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that you studied psychology, because I wanted to ask, you mentioned you studied psychology, and also Fakhzan, you studied, what was it you mentioned? Was it geology?
Yeah, I studied geology.
Yeah, so I was like wondering, like, aside from, again, like you mentioned, like more client-facing jobs and like the consultancy tasks and all that, like you guys are still involved in tech, in the product development, like considering like just how, I would say, like quite different your fields of study and with like your field of work right now. Like, what made you go into your current line of work right now?
My case was well, I already knew how to do programming and stuff even before I did my uni course, like more of a side hobby thing. So, and during my course of my uni, sometimes I will use it to run some of the automations. Like, for example, like when I did study psychology, there was some element of programming involving for stats as well, because you need to do it to actually run statistical analysis. So there's some part of what I did, I guess. Then, I mean, Kevin is my schoolmate, so we bumped into each other. He was like, "Oh, I got some ideas." And it's like, okay, let's try doing it. And generally, yeah lah.
Like him.
So try different ideas, and I ended up kind of being stuck with him, I guess. Yeah. Right. And because generally I feel that my role in any place is basically to fill up what's left or what's needed. Right. So I mean, tech is not the only thing I know how to do. Like, I can do design, I can do a lot of different things, right? And I write even a bit of writing here and there. So right now, I guess my role really is to see what's missing and contribute to it, Yeah.
So you're like a jack of all trades, would you consider yourself that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fakhzan?
Okay, for my case, I studied geology, and I actually wanted to study IT before, but had a lot of like talks with my family, and the conclusion was I studied geology after that because of some recommendations. But it never left my I would say like passion slot, because like that's what I truly like to do. I did a bit of programming before, but it was just like as a very like side small hobby kind of thing. And I wanted to do that because it became a hobby for a reason, because I like doing it. And I studied geology, and ended up working as an engineering geologist for about 2 years. And during that time, one of my last projects was something that is not really related to geology, which is the mineral and geoscience department of Selangor. They wanted an internal system. Basically, what I did, funnily enough, was exactly like what we're doing here. I interviewed them and tried to digitalize their process. So by creating an internal system, whereas like before they were doing it with pen and paper. So yeah, they were having trouble with that, keeping up with the large volume of requests and people checking in. Basically, developers. What it is the like land developers. If they want to develop a land or like a place, they need to have the permission by the mineral and geoscience department. So they need to make requests, with supporting documents and that are provided by geologists.
Right.
Before they are allowed to do the development. But they were doing it with pen and paper at that time. And yeah, they wanted to digitalize it because it was very hard for them to keep track and like find which file belongs to what. They have like 1,000 requests every year. So yeah, definitely it's not meant for a manual job. And
I can imagine.
Yeah, it was tough for them. So they engaged us because like the founders of the company that I worked for was like friends with the director of that geoscience department. So they were just discussing and it became into a project. So I helped. I suggested them to create like a simple web app, which I found out recently that they are still using. So I'm really, like it
Very
was
proud.
yeah. Even though like at that time it wasn't really something that is like up to like the industry standard, because I self-learned and I didn't know a lot of things. But when I came in Tanukot, Emil has helped me like tremendously to know like how to do things the right way and the best ways. Yeah.
Wait, you guys self-learn basically how to code and all that. Like, wasn't it like, and then you guys venture into this line of work. Was it like that? Was it a difficult transition? Would you say, from like psychology to tech, and then geology to tech? Was it a difficult transition, or is it like, it's like, because you've done this as a hobby, right? So it's like, I'm just applying what I've already learned, that kind of situation, or how would you describe it?
Learning tech as it is. Okay. Well, like I said, I actually started learning how to program because if you have an interest in this kind of things, you kind of do it really young. Right? I actually started doing it when I was still in like secondary school, even primary school as well. I did a bit of like basic programming, basic logic stuff.
Oh my god.
So it's just a matter of getting used to it, I guess, and in basically continuing to pick up new skills and continuing to pick up new things. So I actually learned a lot from random interns and random people I worked with as well. They like, you should use this framework. Okay, let's use this framework. Things like that. Or at least for the software programming side. Because actually the thing about this is the languages and the framework, everything actually changes every year, or every few months actually. Because it's a very fast evolving field. So generally, you cannot say that this is what I used 10 years ago is relevant now, kind of thing. So regardless, I think there's no disadvantage or advantage of starting early or late. It's just a matter of whether you actually have the discipline to actually continually keep learning new things as well.
Right. Fakhzan?
Yeah, I would say for me also, if you have the passion to do it, then you'll find a way, I feel like. Because like I was also it was, I don't know, I feel like it's going to be hard because like my background is geology, so how am I going to get into this field?
Right.
So what I did was I learned some more and created basically a portfolio for myself of like a few projects, and that was the thing that enabled me to get into this field. Was like lucky enough to be accepted to join Thunder Code based on that. So, yeah. Yeah, I would say you definitely need like materials, supporting evidence to get into the field that you don't have the background in.
Right.
And so that requires a lot of like self effort on your end. Yeah.
Or in Emil's case, you learn it from very young. Yeah, so when you mentioned you studied from like what, primary school, I just imagine like you studied in an actual school, or is that like you just self-learn?
Self-learn. Cause like,
Uh-huh.
okay, I think when I was primary school, that was in the 1990s and the early 2000s. That's when websites like Neopets, Neopets, right? Right, Neopets was around, and a bunch of like interesting the first generation of web-based like interactive software, things like that. So that was like the dot-com bubble period, and there was a lot of funny things, flash games, things like that. So one of the things that got me interested is kind of because I like to do a bit of design and stuff.
Right.
So like Neopets actually had this thing where you could create a little website for your pet, to showcase your pet and showcase what you do. Last time there wasn't those fancy drag and drop things where you can kind of drag and drop and design a thing. You have to actually write it out. Right, so that's what I had to learn, and that was like the old version of HTML where I was like using like font tags and like really interesting ways of writing it. Now everything is split up very nicely into like the coding the JavaScript, HTML and CSS. Last time everything was just embedded and bundled into one document. So that was my first exposure. Then besides that, also like in secondary school I was like doing blogging and all that. That was before Facebook was a thing. So you want to have your own blog so your friends can see what you are doing. Then everyone wants to makes a nice. Nobody wants to use the standardized customized.
Right.
They want to customize it. So yeah, I took a bit of effort to kind of learn how to do the special effects and stuff like that on the blog and things like that. So that was like HTML, I guess, and stuff like that. Yeah.
And CSS. Did you guys get into Tumblr? Because like that kind of reminds me of Tumblr, and then people usually customize it.
Well, during my era, I was blogger, so yeah. That was even before WordPress became a thing, or not Medium, right? Everyone is Medium. Right. Yeah, but before that was like Blogger was one of the first few players. Then there was the weird Windows Live page thing, and then there was page died. Then there was LiveJournal, right?
Oh my LiveJournal. Wow, that brings back so much memories.
Yeah. It's interesting that all of them after Facebook came into play, all of them kind of died because Facebook can just do your own personal posting and everything.
Right.
Then there's also like now it's a move towards even smaller snippets. Like people's attention spans are dropping. So now it's like Twitter, or even like TikTok. Those really micro content. Yeah, but last time you actually wrote essays.
We had the energy to do that.
Yeah.
Good thing that everything began with Neopets. That's so funny. Alright, I guess like to segue into like today's main topic, right? Okay, so like in the previous episode, Kevin, who was our first guest and also one of the co-founders of Thundercode, we've talked about like tech for good and like what it means, what it means and why is it important, based on his perspective. So I was like wondering, maybe you would like to perhaps add in your own perspective, like what does tech for good mean and like why is it important? Yeah.
Like for tech for good in a sense, right? Because a lot of times like for public good, service delivery, constituent delivery of services to people is all human to human interactions, right? But the problem with it is that there's for these human to human interactions, right? There's always a limit to manpower lah. Nobody really, it's not really doing a social worker is not a glamorous job, right? Dealing with people with problems isn't exactly a very glamorous job. I would say they're unsung heroes. And generally, you see that in the commercial space, right, you see that it's automatic ordering kiosks. You see so many ways that other commercial companies have digitalized just to increase the efficiency of their manpower, increase the viability of their good delivery. You see so many startups coming out like Grab and all that, doing all these things to improve and digitalize certain workflows. But we don't see it as much, I would say, in the social service space because it's kind of sad because like on one hand, people say that you can't lose the human touch, for digitalization in the social service space. But then again, right, also shouldn't be restricted by the fact that, there's a lack of resources and all that, because I think a perennial problem is that, like, for the social service space, because of so many different stakeholders, there's a lot of reporting requirements, there's a lot of compliance requirements. You don't want public money to be used for buying things that are not supposed to be bought. Yeah. Corruption and all that, right? So that's why there's a lot of reporting requirements and a lot to make sure that the money that people give for these causes are actually put to good use. And technology can really be an enabler to allow you to have this high level of compliance, right? While also not increasing the compliance burden on the user, because my personal take is that technology should be completely invisible or transparent to the end user. They should not feel that they're using technology. They should be like, oh, I'm just going on my business and things are happening behind the scenes. I don't know how it works, but it's like magic, right? Like, you don't have to teach a person how to use an iPhone. They pick up the iPhone, they know how to use it. So same, like for any technology you build, it shouldn't need to be taught. It should be as intuitive as just picking up the thing and starting to use it. Okay, then the other thing, of course, for, like, besides the compliance requirements, of course, is the fact that COVID-19 has kind of changed a lot of the way we do things as well.
Yeah.
So I think one of the important things is that if you can't meet the people, how are you going to do it, right?
Right.
So that's why it's important also for digitalization to help to ensure that services still get delivered in this age where it's more difficult to meet people. And while everyone's still very connected through the internet and all that, even rural areas of the people that usually previously couldn't be touched by internet, right? Like they already have a lot of people even have smartphones or like very basic internet connections. So in the sense that it's getting more accessible and cheaper as well. So it opens up a lot of opportunities to allow people to provide service delivery for people who previously it was a bit harder to do as well, right? And of course, the last thing also with that I would say as a person who studies social science, psychology and all that, right, is that technology really can help with data collection, right? And what I mean by data collection is this, because you want to make sure that the therapy you're providing is all evidence based. It's all provided in a way that shows that whatever you're doing really works. I mean, in the past, like 20, 30, 40 years ago, there were therapies that we all know are completely bogus now. They don't work, right? It's just snake oil, right? So the idea is that by making sure that our interventions for the public space for good, right, are actually empirically backed and proven, and how we do that by utilizing technology to improve the efficiency of data collection and analysis, right? Right. I mean, okay, there are fancy words for it. Some people call it machine learning and all these words, but in the end, it's all about how you can use the data, and provide better service, more tailored service to users that are empirically proven, right? And this is something that technology can be a very strong enabler of, I would say.
All right. Fakhzan, would you like to add in as well?
Yeah, I completely agree with the things that Emil has said. And he's been dealing with a lot of agencies, and I would say what he can summarize from that is definitely very good points. And yeah, I would say it is important now more than ever for these social service agencies to get into digitalizing their processes and workflows, because I would say unless something very weird happens to the world, we are not going back to
very weird.
Yeah, unless the World War broke out and then we don't have technology, so then we go back to writing things like as the main way of doing things, because like right now the world is more connected than ever, and I've read recently also that internet has become a human's right rather than just luxury.
Right.
Yeah, so that being said, it's the people who don't adopt technology into their processes would be at loss, rather than just it's something that is optional. I feel that way. I'm pretty sure a lot of people also feel that way based on how the world is today.
Okay. Alright. So, like, you guys talked about, like, basically how, just to summarize, I guess, like, tech, it benefits the what do you call that, SSAs and charities and how they do things. But, like, maybe, like, do you have any, like, interesting stories or examples you want to share to the listeners just to, like, further illustrate your point, I guess? Like, do you have any, like, examples you want to share? Some interesting experience?
Okay, so...
Feel free.
I have too many to list. But actually one of the interesting things is that context is very important in this space.
Alright.
So, like, one of the things is this. So, for example, a lot of the startups and people doing technology, they always think that, okay, I can just get everyone to install my mobile app. Start using my services. And even the stakeholders of the charity think that way. But there is a slight problem as well. Like, because, number one, if your system was 100% reliant on having an internet connection, 100% reliant on having an iPhone, things like that, right? Then you're going to get a problem when you start, working with cases where you're working with different groups of people that may not have the same access to the technology that you think they have, especially for service delivery. Let me just take a few cases in point. Some from my personal experience, some from my experience interacting with other agencies. Right. Okay. So for example, if I was to do we actually did some work for migrant workers as well, right?
Nice.
And we were thinking of things like, we can get them to get an app, install stuff, and do some things to get information they want and things like that. But then we realized some things like a lot of these migrant workers they don't earn a lot of money, right? So occasionally their phone line gets cut, right? So there's no data and they can't even receive calls. So the question is like, if I can't receive calls, then how do I contact them? Things like that. Or like if I can't get internet, how do I do a video conference with them and things like that? So it's like kind of important to tailor make the solution in a way that not just over engineer it and just do it the same way, but think about the end user. Who are the end users in the scenarios you're looking at, and how to make sure the technology fits what they actually use. I mean, the other thing I also more recent experience actually would be, I know like Malaysia is doing like vaccinated travelers quarantine. I travel a lot, right? So right, one of those things was that you come into the center, right, and they tell you, okay, we'll send you your swab results from the airport via email or WhatsApp. It's a problem. Not every traveler has data.
Right.
I mean, technically you could wander around and then connect to the airport Wi-Fi, which is a bit spotty, So it's like, I'm wondering, why don't you just use SMS? I mean, SMS is kind of like everyone can receive SMS, right? You just put a phone for SMS. You don't need any special data plan or anything to receive SMS overseas. But it was like, no, you must use WhatsApp or all that require data. Then I was like, okay, lucky I have a data plan. If not, I'll be a bit like, okay, I sit in the airport for 3 hours. I don't know whether I got my COVID results or not,
Was this in like KL? Was this like in Singapore or in KL? Like the whole result thing?
Only KL requires you to stay in the airport. Like Singapore, you can go home first. and they for communications by SMS. Yeah, so.
I see. Keep this in mind.
Yeah, actually, that's why I actually like SMS. I like SMS as a medium of communication because it's significantly more accessible to a larger group of people. Even though you can't reply SMS, not everyone has free SMSs to reply, but receiving messages from SMS is actually the most convenient way for most people. Of course, there are some problems because the SMS protocol isn't the most secure like email, so you can get scam messages and stuff. Actually, recently in the news, some people got scammed because they received an SMS, they thought it was from the bank, and then they entered their credentials, and then things went haywire, they lost a lot of money.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate.
Yeah.
But then, actually, like you mentioned before, like you were the whole migrant worker, like some of them, they don't have access to like certain like you want to build apps for them and all that, but then some of them don't have the access to the right technology. Then how do you go about that situation then?
So normally what we do is that we're planning out. We interview and get an understanding of the users really carefully first. Then normally what I do is I do a series of what I call fallbacks, right? So always try to meet them through different channels. And if this channel doesn't work, fall back to the next available channel. So for example, I can try WhatsApp first. If WhatsApp doesn't work, then I fall back to SMS. If SMS really doesn't work, then you fall back to other means, and things like that. So for communications, and for example, for the migrant worker case, we found out that the migrant workers have in their dormitories in Singapore, they have internet access because they provide Wi-Fi.
Right.
They don't have call time. So it means that instead of the assumption that you can just use call, you can call in free incoming and all that, why don't you do database calls? So we set up like a means for them to log into a website to to actually send calls through from a database site in a sense.
I see. Maybe Fakhzan also has something to share. Like, do you have any interesting stories?
Interesting stories. Let's see. So, I would say, what's interesting about this line of work, I would say. Can I share about that?
Sure.
Yeah, it's for me, it would be mainly, I would say, like, programming or development in itself is basically problem solving. That's what Emil taught me very early on. And being able to use that to solve real world problems. For example, at the starting time of the pandemic, we actually had a lot of people contacting us about they want to keep on doing, like, running their organization, but their processes require them to be on site. For example, these call centers, because these call centers used to use physical phones, like the real phone, so they need to be there obviously because it's a wired phone, or they need to be there. So how do they keep their organization running if that's the case when people are not supposed to go to work physically? So we looked into services that are suitable in terms of, like, their budget, and if that service can meet their needs. And then after we find that out, we talk to them. Will this work? We tell them the features of this service, and then we set it up for them. For example, now they don't have to rely on going to the site to use a physical phone. They can just use their browser. So if it's on a browser, then that opens up a lot of possibilities. Means you can do it with your laptop, you can use it with your phone, because a lot of these devices usually comes with browsers. So that opens up a lot of possibilities in terms of them being able to do their work anywhere, as well as since it works on a phone even, they don't need to get an expensive laptop, or it will help out with their planning to cater for this workflow. So I'm happy to say that we've helped a few organizations for this particular case, a cloud PBX, you could say, basically online telephoning system for call centers. So it's something that is practical and it works, and I would say the interesting thing is, like, technology allows this to be possible, and it really helps with a real world problem. So I find that interesting actually. If we know where to look, then there's possibly something that we can help with.
Yeah, from what I understand, like, from your stories and stuff, you're also helping, like, in a sense, like, also helping to make technology, like, more accessible to these organizations as well. Like you said, like, technology opens many doors to a lot of like more opportunities, but, like, from what I understand, you're also helping, like, to open these doors, if that makes sense. So, like, personally, I feel it sounds very amazing. Like, how do you guys personally feel, being able to play a part in this, like, making technology more accessible to, like, these charities and SSAs who, come to you for help? Like, how do you feel, being able to play a part in that role?
Okay, so, alright, I'll go first. So, definitely, it is something that is rewarding in terms of being able to, like at least in like my role, in a small way, try to make the world a better place. Even if it's just a small thing, because I believe that everyone has a purpose, and we are all capable of making this world a better place, no matter how small. So
That's very nice words.
yeah, so I feel like having the opportunity to help by being in this position, in this place that I currently am right now, is very rewarding. And yeah, it's a
Very rewarding.
Yeah.
Emil? I guess you would echo the sentiment, or?
Well, yeah, I would say so. I think one of the more interesting things is I kind of gone full circle in a sense. Like I mean, this is something I was keen on since I studied psychology and all that, right? I was kind of keen on doing some of this work already.
Right.
It's just that instead of being the person probably doing the actual social work, I'm actually helping the helpers, helping the social workers. So that's it's kind of interesting lah, because I can, I'll say, live vicariously through my hard doing, I guess. Right. And I think also I'm in a better position because as this, I can kind of direct how the general state of the space goes in terms of technology they adopt, in terms of direction they use, and influence how policymakers also look into how to help the sector as a whole. Because right, they actually rely on our expertise to actually understand like these are what the needs of the agencies are, these are the real pain points, and also how can I make it better? How do I do like a national level architecture or national level policies to help the non-profits to kind of move forward, I would say.
Right. So, like, speaking of like adopting technology and all that, like, one of the major reason like a lot of like organizations move online these days is because of like the pandemic, and then because like they're also following all the rules and regulations in place. Like Singapore had the circuit breaker, and then Malaysia had the MCO, like the movement control order. So like and it's been about 2 years and we're still ongoing. So do you think like SSAs and charities these days are more open to adopting technology, like especially like if you compare it to before the pandemic happened? Do you think they're more open to it nowadays, based on your observation?
Well, I wouldn't say whether they're open to it or not. It's more of whether they feel the need to do it. Because I have met people who don't really like it. They're like, I want to, it's the same lah. You go to like normal bosses and all that. They're like, I want my workers to come back to office now. Right? That's really very normal. So like, people's mindsets won't change overnight. But people's there are other motivations besides mindset, I would say. And the pandemic has became a pressure point for people to move in that particular direction, and has kind of kick-started it. So there are people who already intended to, and they have sped up what was inevitable. And for those who like refuse to do it, they are basically given a kick to just like, you just better do it lah. And then hopefully by the end of it, when they realize that there are actually some productivity gains and some benefits of it, they will be more open to it, I would say. Because it's usually, I wouldn't say that the pandemic caused people to be more open, but the pandemic forced people to adopt certain things. And through the process of adoption, and if it's a good adoption, then it will help them to realize that it's actually not as difficult as you think it is.
Do people have like when you during your like day-to-day with the clients, right? And then they like say that this is like their first attempt to like digitalize their the way they do things. Like, do they have like a perception to how like the process usually works? Do they like, is there like a incident like they think, I'm going to digitalize this, it's going to be like an instant thing, it's just like, So how do you deal with that kind of situation?
Manage expectations, I guess.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll throw some cautionary tales like, you do this, you need to be careful about that, and basically lay out the paradigm and the limits of where technology can bring because no matter how you look at it, there is a price to pay for most of these stuff, and the benefits sometimes the benefits do not outweigh the cost as well lah. So, like for example, like some people like say, oh, they heard of buzzwords like blockchain and machine learning, AI, all these kind of things, and they have no idea what it actually means. Then you have to bring them down to earth and like actually let's start with this first, yeah.
When you mentioned that, it actually reminds me of this one video I saw on YouTube where the client says like, oh, but aren't you going to use AI or whatever? Has that ever happened? Has that ever happened in your, if for either of you lah, like they come to you like, oh yeah, I want this thing. Are you not gonna use AI or blockchain or whatever those buzzwords they throw at you? Is there like circumstances like this? Have you ever faced it before? Would you say?
Luckily, I usually talk to. Okay, the people that do throw this kind of buzzwords tend to be management level. Right.
Alright.
So, most of the time, when the people I interview are largely, because I make it a point to focus on, for my consultancies, to focus on the people who are actually doing the work, the social workers and all that. Typically, I do not get so much of that, but there have been cases that that people have been like kind of like ask certain things that technology obviously can't deliver. Then it's just a matter of managing expectations. Yeah.
Oh, Fakhzan, do you have any experience with this as well?
Yeah, I remember an instance or two where these buzzwords were thrown in. But usually what we do if we hear those kind of things is we try to ask them what do they want to achieve actually. Because sometimes you don't even need like those buzzwords to achieve what they want to achieve actually.
They just sound very cool to say, I guess.
Yeah, it sounds cool. Like we can possibly put it there just for the sake of it, but what's important is the original, like their goal is achieved. So we usually just like try to ask them what do they want actually. Yeah.
Okay. Do you actually go to them and like, oh, so what exactly do you guys want? Do you actually do that, or do you like? Is there another way you guys do it? Here. I guess straightforward. I guess being straightforward helps. All right. Yeah, we're actually running out of time. So I guess like before we end things, like we've talked about like the benefits of tech and tech for good and all that. So do you like have anything to say or like a word of advice to SSAs and charities? Anyone who's involved in the social sector who may still be on the fence to like digitalize the way they do things in the organization. Especially those who may need it, but they're still like on the fence. Like they're not sure whether they want to do it, and if it weren't for the whole circumstances that we're in, they wouldn't have moved online. They wouldn't have done things differently. But yeah, do you have any, words of advice to say to them as well?
I mean, my general take is that don't think of it as tech lah. Just think of it as how do I improve my processes? How do I make things more efficient? How do I make my, improve my processes, improve my general service delivery standards to be better than what it currently is. Really, it's about process improvement, about improving the organization as overall, rather than let's adopt tech for the sake of adopting tech. I would say that that's actually more important. I actually really don't believe in over engineering solutions actually. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I also agree with Emil. The bottom line is to improve the process and make it more accessible, especially if we are able to overcome the physical limitations wherever possible, and wherever we can save time or like manpower for the organization by streamlining or improving certain parts of the processes, then we would do that. So in terms of like the advice, it's more towards think of it that way as well, like what Emil said, and even if like it is something that is new to them, some people are resistant to change. it's possible for it to be an alternative rather than a complete change. Yeah,
Right.
maybe that way they are able to accept it better, because like maybe they can still do it the way that they knew how, but yeah, it's every case is different. So what we did was, or are still doing, we interview them and we do like sessions to figure out their pain points and their current processes, and then we can use that information to bring in our like expertise in terms of what we know in terms of in the technology space,
Right.
to find like the best way to that caters for their needs, as well as, you know, if they have resistance to change, then what part of the we can break it down basically, and basically find the best fit solution for their case. And yeah, every case is different, so yeah, just keep an open mind, I guess, for SSAs.
Yeah, definitely. I think keeping an open mind would be probably like the most important advice I would say towards anything, to be honest. Like trying new things. Yeah. But yeah, I guess, that's, we've reached the end of our episode. So, thank you again, for sparing the time to have this conversation with me. And I hope like our listeners like benefited from this conversation as much as I did. Yeah, thank you to everyone who tuned in to the podcast, and I hope to see you soon in the next episode. And that was today's episode. If you enjoyed today's show, please subscribe and leave a review. It would mean a whole lot to us. You can also head over to our website, thundercode.org, to gain access to our free digital resources. See you next time!